I, oh geez. Okay, I am working on these pictures in Photoshop. Actually, what I've got all of the color correcting and everything done. So now the last thing that I do is I will bring them over into Photoshop for retouching. So I have this one duplicated so I can show you. So here we go. The first thing I do is I will take my patch tool and I will go in and use the content aware. So you select and then hit delete, and then up here, make sure that your content aware is selected. And then I just do content aware fill. So that's the first thing that I do is I will go in and tackle the bigger things that need, bigger, what am I trying to say? It's very hard to edit and talk at the same time. Very hard for me to do multiple things at the same time. But yeah, so this is kind of how I start. And you can see I'm kind of doing a combination of can you see that? Whenever I do the patch, obviously you want to keep it as close, the source and the destination as close as possible, because you want to preserve the tones, the color tones. At least I do. This is how I edit. I try to keep it as natural looking as possible. That's just how I prefer to do my pictures. I don't like to get in the realm of looking fake and plasticky. I just don't like that. I want to preserve, as much natural look as possible. I always say I try to edit thinking about you're having the best skin day, best hair day, and that's what I'm kind of going for when I do my retouching. And why it takes me forever, but I think it's worth it, and I don't know. Maybe there's a better way to do this besides... I don't think there is. I've tried many different ways of editing, and this just works for me, for the look that I like to achieve with my pictures. And if I did this full time, I might think about it differently. I don't know, probably not. I'm a little bit funny like that, but... Oops. So, nose areas are so hard because there's such a broad range of... So you go from these blacks and these other tones that are very hard to get right. I've kind of figured out the art of it. You just kind of work very little by very little. But yeah, so just move along, doing all of removing all of the areas, blemishes, hairs. Basically, yeah, it's those are the two main things you're retouching, right? Unless you're dealing with a baby or a toddler and then you have snot, and that is so hard. Or food. But the more you shoot, the more you're aware of your subject, and you constantly making sure they're fixing their hair, or obviously it's better to start with a clean face than have to clean one up in Photoshop. And not that it's, you know, it's possible, but not ideal. Her eyes are out of focus here, but really that's okay. She likes this picture, so. No, I don't like that. Control Z is like my best friend. That wasn't the best, but whatever. So this is sometimes I will use content aware on the hair, sometimes not. It just depends if I can get it, because content aware hasn't been around for that long. I mean, honestly, compared to, I've been editing so long that way longer than content aware has been around. Ah, I don't like that. So let's try content aware here. Basically, I'm just used to not relying on it. So it's taken me a bit to get used to it, actually. I remember when it first came out, it was just like a revolutionary, but it took forever to use. Do you guys remember when content aware came out? Maybe I'm just that old. Can't remember which Photoshop it was that had it first. I don't like that. We're gonna use the clone stamp here. So if you're working in like an out of focus area like this, here's the settings I have: 53% hardness and the size, just depending on obviously what you're retouching. Yeah, I don't like that. I think I want to rebuild that edge a little. And I'm just like kind of a little bit crazy because I try to make, actually that might work. Try to make things a little too perfect. But yeah, you can use the clone stamp. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm feeling kind of, I feel like it's not always the best because you can see it added some color there. This just works better, especially when you're working in, you know, all of these tones in the out of focus area. I find the patch is the best tool for that. That here. Yeah. Let's try this. Content aware fill. The thing about Photoshop is like there's so many different tools. See, that doesn't look good to me. Let's see what it looks like. I don't like that. There's so many different tools to use to get kind of the same result. You just have to figure out which ones you like the best. And sometimes, yeah, you just figure out what works. I'm just repeating myself. Yeah, you get the point. There. You see that a little? Nobody would ever notice that, but I do want to fix it anyways. I'm a little bit too much of a perfectionist. Sometimes I just have to stop. No. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. All day. And hair is so hard. It's like opening a can of worms, you know. If you've ever retouched hair, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can even hear me. So that's good. Well, is it? Is it? Is it? Should I keep going? Okay. Yeah. I think I'm happy with that. Just make sure it's looking natural, you know. Actually, let's do this. No, I don't like that. It's good. Nobody would ever notice. So, I think I'm going to leave that. Oops. No. Okay. Yeah, so I patch for the skin, my skin retouching. I will patch first. It's like the patch is your biggest tool, and then go into finer tools. Let's see if I can rebuild this eyebrow. I've kind of become a little bit of an expert on this. I say that and then it'll look like garbage. Sometimes it's just not. Doesn't work. I have actually replaced eyebrows with other eyebrows. Pretty fascinating. I just love Photoshop. So let's see how that looks. This is our copy. This to me does not look right. There. I think that's better. Okay. Down here, you can see she has some sort of a scratch. So once I'm happy with what I can do with the patch, then I will go to my spot healing brush and I'll work with that a little. Try not to do too much, like with things like this. Sometimes I do if it's like really obvious. But yeah, I try to leave people's natural features exactly like they are. It's just how I like to edit. I don't want to make you look fake or plastic or I don't know. Everyone has a different idea on that, I suppose, but that's bad. So we're just like fine-tuning some of those issues, and then I'm leaning forward on my desk. I need a new chair, and I'm kind of putting that off. It's like replacing an appliance or a vehicle. It's like, ugh, I want to do that. I'd just rather deal with a terribly uncomfortable chair. Okay. I think so some of this unevenness. So these are my settings. I keep the spacing down here around 25%. My angle at -20 degrees and roundness at 100. Pen pressure I don't know if that matters. That's just what I always have. 0% hardness and just size depending on what, what you're working with. So, yeah. And I like the spot healing versus the healing. I don't know. I just prefer it. So, constantly going in and out just to look and just see if there's any other areas that need to be addressed. So, you can see where we're at now. The thing about retouching is, like, your brain almost removes the blemishes when you look at people. Like, you're not looking at that. And so it gets tricky whenever you shoot people. I never let anybody see their raw files. I try not to, because it's very kind of shocking. Because of that, even you kind of naturally, your brain removes those when you look at yourself. Well, okay, I say that. I don't know if that's true, but it just depends. But when you're looking at somebody you love, you don't see that kind of stuff, And so, and the camera obviously is like super, the image sensor, depending on what you're using on, but it just picks up everything. It's incredible. But, yeah, I guess it can be a little shocking. And so I try not to let people see their raw files. For one, because when they're not edited, you can be like, these images are really bad. But also just for the fact of, they're not retouched. And okay, so no, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just trying to even out this, remove some of the splotchiness. Like I said, she was running and twirling, and like, man, there are certain things that are very hard to edit. Certain areas that are very hard to retouch. Like down in this, when you're dealing with all of these different tones, I mean, look at, you go from like almost white to this like deep tan color. And so anyway, I just try to preserve all of that color range and tone and everything. So this is where we're at now. Again, noses, try to keep all of these shadows and highlights, We want them to still look like they have a nose when we're done here. I have dirt on my screen and I really need to clean that up. Okay. I need to just call it, like, so whenever I'm doing a nose, I try to work vertically. And I don't know. It's just what I do. So, happy with that. Last thing I do when I'm retouching the skin is I will go in with my paintbrush. I work with a 5x5 pixel average. That's just works for me. And then I have my opacity around 20, opacity and flow, and that's whatever, 100% smoothing. So I will make the brush size. It just depends on kind of the range of colors that I'm working with versus, and the size. I don't know. I feel like there's probably like a better way to explain this, but I'm not. So I pick up in an area and I airbrush, and then I pick up in another area. You can see that color change, and then I airbrush, and then I pick up here. So it just, can you see? I'm not trying to make this perfect, but I am trying to even it out just a little. And I always I'm constantly picking up where I'm working, because like I said, I want to preserve the tones and the shadows and all of these, like, you know, we want I just want my subjects to still look like people, you know? And sometimes I'll even go down here. Yeah, it just depends on how uneven everything looks. So I don't want to remove those under the eye, you know, the deeper colors. I just think that looks so natural and nice. A lot of times you'll have redness around the nose. Just try to pick up as close to the redness. Like you can see, there's your redness. Down here is a little less red. So then go in with and airbrush that, just to help with that a little. So just constantly, just go until you're happy. Just like Pop Ross. Happy little airbrush. Okay. So there we go. Show ya. You can see before. Let's get her back in. Let's try to get. What is going on? Why can't I get it exactly the same? Okay. So there's our retouched one, and there's where we started. It's not like, you know, mind-blowing. This right here bothers me a little. I'm gonna have to do something there. Maybe that. Okay, I think that's good. This is bothering me. I don't really know what that is. I think it's just a little something from the sun. But we're going to take that out too. Yeah, that's it. Well, wait. Okay, I just have dirt on my screen. I thought it was something. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. But that's kind of like a little bit of how I do my retouching. And I don't know. I gotta figure out like how I want to do these videos in the future. I actually really like doing these, but yeah. Save and close. Don't forget. Close and save.